Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You're very welcome to this EU side event within COP28, hosted by the European Commission. My name is Ugo Bassi. I am a director in DG FISMA, the Directorate General in charge of financial services, financial stability, and capital markets union within the EU Commission. And I am very glad to moderate this panel this morning on ESRS, so on corporate sustainability reporting and its pivotal role in advancing the objective of the COP28, among others. I will briefly, shortly introduce the distinguished panelists which will accompany me today, this morning, in the debate. Before that, a few introductory words from my side. As you know, 2023 has been a crucial year for sustainability reporting. The Commission has adopted its sustainability reporting standards in July this year. Standards which had been drafted previously by EFRAG on the basis of the previous work done in the last 2 years. In parallel, ISSB has also unveiled their sets of standards in July this year, contributing significantly to the global commitment to sustainable business practices. The whole work has been built on the work done previously by the Global Reporting Initiative, and we will discuss all that today to see where are we coming from on the one hand and where we will go on the other hand. Before diving into the question and answers, I will ask to launch the pre-recorded message from Commissioner Mairead McGuinness, the European Commissioner for Financial Services, Financial Stability and Capital Markets Union, who could not be with us this morning, but wanted to, of course, wish us a fruitful discussion. Please.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to join you for today's event. Since the last COP, we've seen significant changes in sustainable finance and in particular in sustainability reporting. So in my brief opening remarks, I'll give you an update on what the European Union has done in this area over the last year. And I look forward too, while showing how our work fits into the global picture. The Commission adopted the first set of European sustainability reporting standards in July. We're the first in the world to have a comprehensive mandatory set of sustainability reporting standards. Now, we focused on getting the balance right, making sure that the requirements for companies are reasonable while keeping the environmental ambition high. Large European companies now have mandatory standards in place for their reporting from financial year 2024. This sets the stage for a more transparent and accountable business environment. Now, as you likely know, in the European Union, we take a double materiality perspective. So under these standards, companies will report on their impact on people and the environment, as well as about the risks they face from climate change and other sustainability issues. These standards are not just about compliance. They will allow companies to plan and manage their sustainability performance and report on how they're doing and what they plan to do next. These standards underpin the European Green Deal, and that's the EU's plan to reach climate neutrality by 2050. Now, moving briefly to the next steps, I think first and foremost we look at implementation. We want to help companies apply these new standards and make sure they meet their objective. The Commission asked our technical advisory group, the European Financial Reporting Advisory Group, or EFRAG, to make guidance for companies a top priority. There's good progress to report here, with the development of an online Q&A platform that companies can go to with practical questions. The Commission's next priority is standards for small and medium-sized companies, because these standards will help SMEs respond to requests that they may get from banks, large companies, customers, and others on their sustainability record. Sector-specific standards are also on the horizon, and these should be based on the key information required in specific economic sectors. As set out in law, we will also develop separate standards for use by certain non-EU companies with a significant presence in the European Union. These companies generate over €150 million on the EU market and have either a large branch or subsidiary in the EU. The requirements for these large non-EU companies will begin in financial year 2028. And finally, I want to mention a really important topic, the global picture on sustainability reporting. We in the European Union are committed to global standards that are coherent and comprehensive. In particular, we're working closely with the International Sustainability Standards Board and the Global Reporting Initiative. The Commission and the ISSB have both confirmed that our climate reporting standards align very closely. At a global level, we can together make sure that global sustainability reporting works effectively. So today is an opportunity to talk about what the EU has done on sustainability and climate reporting, but also what more we need to do. We also look forward to learning about other initiatives, not just in Europe, but around the world. And we look forward to listening to those driving sustainability reporting forward right across the globe. So thank you, and I wish you a very fruitful event.
Now time to introduce, thank you, Commissioner McGuinness. It's now time to introduce our distinguished panelists. They're all here, the key actors we've been referring to. They're all attending the panel today, which is, of course, a premise for an extremely fruitful and thoughtful discussion. So, Patrick de Cambourg, the chair of the Sustainability Reporting Board of IFRAG, is there. Sue Lloyd, Vice Chair of EASSB, International Sustainability Standards Board. Carol Adams, Chair of the Global Sustainability Standard Board of GRI, Global Reporting Initiatives. Isabel Schumann, Deputy General Secretary of the European Trade Union Confederation and member of the IFRAG Sustainability Reporting Board, and finally, representative of the industry in charge of applying those standards on the ground, Chris Libri, Senior Director ESG of Applied Materials, a US-based global technology company. So as I said before, we are going to do at least 2 rounds of interventions for panelists. And as I said before, we're going to see, first of all, where we're coming from. And in that context, I would like to ask, first of all, Patrick de Cambourg, about the experience that IFRAG had in order to arrive basically where it has arrived. So IFRAG was requested to provide this technical advice to the European Commission in the form of draft standards. How did IFRAG run this mandate and meet this mandate, this challenging mandate? What were the challenges that you've met? I remind all speakers to speak not more than 4 minutes if they want to have a second round of question and possibly a third. So, Patrick, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Hugo, and good morning or good afternoon to all. In fact, there were no unexpected challenges in the exercise, the standard setting exercise carried out by IFRAG, because we knew from the beginning that we were placed under the aegis of a political orientation and then decision following an intense debate, the outcome of which is, of course, full democratic legitimacy to sustainability reporting and the related standards, the SRS. So the combination of public legitimacy, public democratic legitimacy, and technical quality is not easy, but I think that we ultimately reached the goal. And it is a milestone moment, as it was mentioned by Commissioner McGuinness. From a technical standpoint, we had, in fact, to find the right balance between a number of objectives, 4 objectives, in fact. Objective number 1 was to address sustainability matters, reporting on sustainability matters, including climate, but not exclusively, under a holistic and consistent approach. That was the orientation given under the Green Deal, ESG, and that's so we had to meet that overall holistic approach goal. And by the same token, objective number 2, we had to design a reporting that would address both impacts and risks and opportunities, meeting at the same time the expectations of investors and financial markets, which are so important for the allocation of capital, and the broader perspective of the role of businesses in the EU without blurring a fair representation of sustainability, i.e., having one goal taking precedence over the other or the other way around. Objective number 3 was to create a proportionate environment for preparers and users, because that's a major step forward, without impairing quality and comparability. And last but not least, objective 4 was to build on and contribute to the global progress of sustainability reporting, since many challenges are global and since the European Union doesn't want to operate in isolation. So that's why we established a clear cooperation with GRI and also a fruitful dialogue with the ISSB, and by the way, other initiatives as well, such as TNFD. The outcome of which I believe with this, the SRS, which have been adopted recently, and this is, as you know, great news, because now the legal framework is ready to go for the first reporting. So we believe that to a large extent on impact reporting, we have a high level of commonality with GRI, and ESRS reporters will be in a position to say that they report with reference to GRI, and also with the ISSB, where in fact we made every effort under a two-way traffic to incorporate to the maximum extent possible the disclosures required under the ISSB, so that ESRS reporters would be compliant, or would be reporting in line with ISSB requirements without undue burden. So these 4 objectives give a clear picture of what were the goals. And to oversimplify, I think that, of course, nothing is perfect, but I think we met the objectives. So challenges overcome, if I may say so.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Patrick. Let's move to Sue Lloyd, to ISSB. Sue, what has been the journey of ISSB over the last 2-3 years to arrive where you arrived? Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Hugo, and I apologise for the background noise. I'm at COP in Dubai. So delighted to join the panel today and to talk about what we have achieved in the last 2 years, because of course it's our second birthday at the moment, given that our formation was announced at COP26 and we're here now at COP28. So from our perspective, what have we achieved? One of the very important milestones, of course, was publishing our first 2 standards at the end of June, our general requirements for disclosures on sustainability information and our specific climate disclosure requirements in S2. So the ISSB's objective, just to remind everybody, is very much to make sure that we meet the needs of investors around the world, providing a high quality, consistent, comparable information about how sustainability related risks and opportunities are affecting the sustainability of a business from an investor's perspective to inform investment decisions. Now, sometimes when we say that, people think that we don't care about impacts, and that's certainly not the case. We are interested in how sustainability risks and opportunities affect a company's prospects, and that includes as a consequence of how a company interacts with people, the planet, and the economy. And so our standards do focus on that as well. So from our perspective, what is very important is this global baseline. So we were very happy when IOSCO, the International Securities Regulators, endorsed our work soon after publication in July this year and called on jurisdictions around the world to adopt or be informed by S1 and S2. We're also really interested, as Europe is, in the interoperability of our requirements and how the broader sustainability reporting framework works. So we've been very pleased to work very closely with Patrick and his team at EFRAG and with the Commission as well to ensure we have a high degree of interoperability with the European requirements. And we were delighted in July to be able to report that we feel we've achieved a very high level of alignment in our climate disclosures. And we're continuing to work on a method to really communicate that to our stakeholders to really support the efficiency of information that's provided in the market in an interoperable way to assist preparers in particular. And given Carol's here as well, I can't forget GRI, a very close partner with us at the ISSB as well. We have a memorandum of understanding with GRI because we want to ensure that when stakeholders want to report to investors and also to broader stakeholders, that our sets of standards work well together. So like EFRAG and the Commission, we're very interested both in meeting our own objectives, meeting the needs of investors in capital markets to ensure they have the information they need to make informed investment decisions, but ensuring we have an efficient and effective interoperable global sustainability reporting system. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue, for emphasizing a few times the concept of interoperability, which is, of course, a fundamental objective that we all share. Let's move now to Carol. We said already that a lot of our work, respectively, EFRAG and ISSB, has been based on previous work of the global reporting initiatives. Carol, what do you think the real contribution has been on sustainable, on reporting and sustainable development? Why the standards, the global reporting initiative standards, are important for stakeholders, including but not only investors? Please, Carol, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And firstly, I'd like to commend the European Commission for sticking to their ambition in increasing mandatory sustainability reporting, and also to acknowledge the importance of the ISSB's focus on increasing reporting on risks and opportunities. The interoperability table that we've just released with EFRAG will give GRI reporters falling under the CSRD confidence that they are ESRS ready. The objective of reporting using the GRI sustainability reporting standards set by the Global Sustainability Standards Board, the GSSB, is to provide transparency on how an organisation contributes and aims to contribute to sustainable development. So through the disclosures that the standards require, they help organisations to manage their impacts on sustainable development and to integrate climate change and other sustainable development considerations into governance strategy and policies. So GRI sustainability reporting standards facilitate organisational change, enhancing resilience. Most of the large listed companies in most countries use GRI standards. And these companies already have the capacity and are passing their knowledge down the supply chain. The GRI Standards Division has 26 years' experience in setting sustainability disclosures, and the GSSB members and technical expert committees have substantial expertise in sustainability reporting. There is global multi-stakeholder representation in all our standards development work. Our exposure drafts for updated climate change and energy standards were released for consultation late November. The public comment period for this update is open until the end of February. They draw on a range of global initiatives, including the latest developments in the Greenhouse Gas Protocol. Disclosures in the updated climate change standards with little or no coverage in other frameworks and standards include the impact of adaptation plans on people and the environment, targets to phase out fossil fuels, the impact of transition plans on workers and communities, and the impact of carbon credit projects on people and the environment. How we respond to climate.
I think we have a small technical issue with Carol. I think by the time she is back, maybe in order to save time, I can already give turn to Isabel virtually.
Good morning.
Yeah, I think it's better to do it like this. And when Carol is back, we'll give her the floor again. Isabel, you are a member of the IFRAG Sustainability Reporting Board. What is the interest of the trade unions in sustainability reporting? How important it is that sustainability reporting covers also social and human rights issues a part of the as part of the just transition. Please, Isabel, give us your experience.
Yeah, thank you so much for the invitations and good morning from Brussels. So indeed, trade unions have a very strong interest in sustainability reporting because workers matter in the whole supply chain and in the whole industry. We, of course, want comprehensive reporting on social issues, including the respect for human rights and decent work in own operations and throughout the value chain. Reporting and making progress on environmental issues is also crucial for us. For quite some time, we have been saying that there is no jobs on a dead planet. However, the transition to net zero will have a huge social impact as the kinds of jobs that are indeed necessary will change, and the companies and communities reliant upon fossil fuel intensive products and activity will be threatened. This is the reasons why we demand that companies report on their just transition plans, which should include their strategy for developing more sustainable products and services and for reskilling their workers. The construction industry is a good example that millions of jobs can be created, but only if adequate training is provided so that workers can work with newer energy efficient materials and to retrofit all businesses. I'm happy to say that the new European sustainability reporting standards are based on a double materiality, that they consider not only the financial impact of sustainability matters, but also the impact on people and the planet. Furthermore, the EU standards include reporting requirements on the just transition measures that companies are using to mitigate negative impact and provide new opportunities for workers and their community. This is the reasons why it is important to move forward in conjunction with the Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive to come. Thank you so much. Back to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Isabel. And now let's move to industry. Chris, I'm sure everyone is curious to learn. You represent an US-based company, right? To what extent are you going to report according to GRI, ISSB, or ESRS? And more in detail, what preparations and adjustments have you been making to your sustainability reporting in the last couple of years? What choices are you making in this regard, and why? I'm sure everyone is interested to hear from you. Certainly I am. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ugo. It's a pleasure to be here representing industry. And for those of you who don't know Applied Materials, we're a technology company based in California in the US. We make the equipment that makes the semiconductors that you find in all the devices that you use in your home, in your office, and anywhere around the world. So our machinery is quite instrumental to the world economy. We also have operations in Europe, and so CSRD obviously impacts us directly. And so we are planning right now to produce a consolidated report as of 2025. Data so that we can be aligned with the plans of the EU. So along the way, we have done a number of things in our sustainability reporting. We are aligned with GRI. We are aligned with SASB. We have included a TCFD in our reports as well. I think one of the things that many folks like myself in industry who manage sustainability operations find is that these various standards are quite confusing and difficult to manage. And so one of the things I welcome about CSRD is the ability to bring those standards together in a more coherent way. But even more importantly, we're seeing now that as we start to look at double materiality, this is driving greater collaboration between my team and our finance team. So as we look at the material impacts that we're having in the world, but also that the world is having on us, that climate and water risk that our company is assessing and will include in our reporting going forward is going to be even more enhanced in terms of its financial impacts, right? So I think what's great about this process from our perspective is it brings rationality and clarity to reporting, but it also brings this greater collaboration within the enterprise between the sustainability team and our finance team as well. Back to you.
And I can assure you that this new element of collaboration between teams exists also in the sphere of the policymakers, because we are now experiencing a new types of collaboration, internal collaboration with colleagues, with colleagues we have not collaborated too much in the past for the first time. So very interesting indeed. I don't see Carol back yet. So let's move to the second round of questions that I have envisaged for our panelists. These are about the future. I hear that Carol is back. So maybe before moving to the second round, I would ask Carol if she wants to complete her answer to my first question. Here she is. Please, Carol, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm really sorry. I don't know why I'm having Wi-Fi troubles. I'm on my phone just now. The other point I wanted to make was that investors are interested in an organization's most significant impacts, because impacts bring risks and opportunities that affect cash flows and financial returns. They affect resources and relationships on which the organization depends, and the cumulative impacts of many organizations over time bring existential threats. And the interest of many investors is not just about returns, but what life will be like for their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, particularly in the case of superannuation and pension fund members, for example. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Carol, and welcome back with us. So let's move to the second round. I was saying the future. Patrick, what do you think the priorities for EFRAG will be in 2024 and beyond? Now, as you said, ESRS are becoming EU law, and you are busy with guidance, of course, implementation. This is very important. What else?
Thank you, Hugo. I did not mention one challenge earlier, which is the challenge of timetable and implementation. The overall objective is ambitious, since at the end of the day, what we are talking about is placing sustainability reporting on an equal footing with financial reporting, and to do that in a relatively short time frame. And of course, at the same time, the other objective is not to overburden preparers, because it's a major step forward. So, at EFRAG and in full cooperation with the Commission, we have quote unquote one obsession, which is to make sure that the first phase of implementing the standards is a success. So in order to do that, you have mentioned guidance. Yes, our primary task is to create an ecosystem and a capacity building ecosystem where preparers and users will find additional information about how to implement the standards. So we have prepared, and they are publicly available, three documents which we call implementation guidance. One on the list of data points, which is derived from the standards, and which is describing the full universe subject to materiality of potential granular data points. That we think that this is extremely important for preparers to perform their gap analysis. We are also working on materiality assessment, how to perform your materiality assessment, and finally, how to introduce value chain elements into the sustainability reporting, since it is, of course, one of the most difficult aspects of sustainability reporting. We are also, that has been mentioned, the interoperability index, which we have made publicly available regarding GRI, and the future interoperability map that we hope to finalize soon with the ISSB. We have also a Q&A platform for preparers and users to ask their questions. And it was opened at the end of October. And we already have 150, I suspect, questions. So a real task. We hope to be able to answer real time to those questions to facilitate the onboarding of the ESRS requirements. Commissioner McGuinness mentioned also the importance of SMEs. We have just finalized a voluntary SME standard, which is, for the businesses which are not in scope of the mandatory reporting. So the 22 million businesses in the EU that would be at risk of being excluded. So we have created a voluntary standard based on a modular approach, which is very proportionate and simplified, but also creating a platform for the right relationships with the financial institutions and the other businesses, in particular the large companies in the supply chain, and listed SMEs also. So these two standards will be submitted to public consultation early January for 4 months, with the objective to deliver this to the Commission as technical advice by the end of 2024. We are also working on the digital taxonomy because this is important. We said from the beginning that it would be very interesting to have a digital translation of information as soon as possible. And so our digital taxonomy is almost ready and will be consulted upon early January also for 2 months. And we have just started the beginning of the journey regarding non-EU companies and the specific standards that we are required to prepare and that should be adopted by June 2026 under a revised timetable. And finally, of course, we are working on the sector-specific standard, but it's a long journey because we have 39 sectors to consider, and we hope to deliver a first batch at the end of 2025 for the Commission to consider the technical advice that we will have delivered. Thank you.
A lot of work ahead. You are really trying to give an answer to every question which will be asked during the process of the implementation, a big challenge. So what are your priorities? What are the priorities for ISSB? You mentioned interoperability in your previous intervention. Are you going to work more on that? How do you envisage future interactions on interoperability, and what else do you have ahead of you in your working program?
Thank you. If I look forward in terms of what we're focusing, I think I'd split it into 3 main strands of work. One is adoption, the second is implementation, and thirdly, future standard setting work. So on the adoption front, Firstly, we've got very important conversations going on with jurisdictions around the world to assist in roadmaps for the adoption of our standards into regulatory reporting around the world. So that's an important stream of our work. Then we are very focused on making sure that we are supporting those using our standards and indeed those starting sustainability reporting. So a huge amount of our work in the near term is on capacity building. And in fact, just last week, we announced our new knowledge hub of information to support those starting to use our standards. And we have an intensive capacity building program, both ourselves and in partnership with others, including, by the way, with GRI, with the Sustainability Innovation Lab that we launched in Singapore just a couple of weeks ago. We're also on the implementation front, making sure that we've got all of the materials people need to use our standards. So before the end of the year, we should finalise the updates to our SASB standards to ensure our industry-specific information is internationally applicable. We are producing some examples on good application of our climate requirements to remind people about the nature aspects of climate and just transition aspects of climate. And we're working on the digital taxonomy, including, by the way, as a tool to improve interoperability with ESRS. But looking forward then, we did a consultation earlier this year that closed on the 1st of September, and we are going to be deliberating what our next 2-year work plan should be, which we will finalise in the first half of next year. And the projects that we're considering there are biodiversity, human capital, human rights, and further integration of reporting with the financial statements. Now, we've got a very strong message from our stakeholders not to forget that people have got a lot to digest with S1 and S2 as well. So to balance new work with that support. And we also got a very strong message, to get to your point, Hugo, about the importance of interoperability. So I think you can be confident that no matter what we do in terms of supporting implementation of S1 and S2, but also in our future work, we will be looking very, very carefully at opportunities to ensure that our standards work well with the standards of others, including with ESRS and with the GRI standards, and working cooperatively with those in the ecosystem, including the stakeholders on the call today, to really make sure that we've got an efficient and effective reporting system here, working collaboratively to meet the needs of investors and others using sustainability reporting. Thank you.
Indeed. You know that you can count on us on this specific matter, and not only it is very important, of course, that we offer the best and most efficient framework to investors, and as you say, not only Carol, we spoke already about the role of GRI until now. What about the future? What can we expect in terms of new developments for GRI standards? What role you think the Global Reporting Initiative will play in future developments in this area? Carol, please.
Thank you. Well, addressing climate change and achieving sustainable development requires partnerships, and the GRI Standards Division, the GSSB, the policy team and the GRI regional officers are already collaborating with global the colleagues here and national standard setters and regulators, and the GRI Academy is building capacity through training. The Standards Division and the GSSB have strengthened our collaboration on standards development work with EFRAG going forward. We'll be collaborating on sector standards. We meet regularly with ISSB colleagues and hope soon to jointly put out a document showing how our reporting on greenhouse gas emissions under GRI standards will make organisations ready to report emissions under IFRS S2. GRI standards are for all types of organisations, so we're also discussing with IPSASB, the Public Sector Accounting Standards Board, how to increase the extent and quality of sustainability reporting in the public sector. And with regard to jurisdictional standard setters, as well as the EU, we've recently seen the Securities and Exchange Board of India and Colombia mandate requirements aligned with GRI standards. So the most significant impacts of organisations vary by sector, and GRI sector standards help lead to comparable reporting by sector by identifying the impacts most likely to be significant for each sector. and the disclosures in the GRI sector standards are linked to the SDGs. Now, we have a very busy agenda at the GSSB meeting next week. We are set to approve our updated biodiversity standard, which takes into account all the recent global initiatives and developments, and we will also approve our mining sector standard. We expect to release exposure drafts for updated topic standards early next year. By the end of next year, we expect to release exposure drafts on revised economic impact topic standards and exposure drafts for the financial services sector standards, and these will be separate standards, one for capital markets, one for insurance, and one for banking. Work on textiles and apparel sector standard has begun, and we have a number of sector standards which are now already effective. We're also working on guidance to extend the GRI 3 guidance on determining an organisation's most significant impacts to determining the risks and opportunities those impacts create for the organisation and the resources and relationships that they affect. And we're working with EFRAG on a digital correspondence table, so disclosures tagged under both the ESRS and GRI digital taxonomy can be cross-referenced to facilitate digital reporting under both sets of standards. So a lot to do, a busy plan. Thank you.
Indeed, busy days, well, weeks or months or years ahead of you as well. But very important that you mentioned, and you mentioned several times the word collaboration, cooperation. This is also the message that we want to hear. Let me go back to Isabel again for a specific question on her specific role. What do you think trade unions need to make sustainability reporting work for them? It's a very important aspect. Isabel.
Yeah. Thank you so much for these important questions. What we need is, of course, that the ESRS make the difference when it comes to sustainability reporting, and in particular when it comes to a change of the culture of businesses, and clearly here to make clear that this reporting is not just for the investors but also for the workers. And our demands are, of course, that the trade unions and the Works Council should play a central role in sustainability reporting, because strong worker participation ensures that it is reporting that is relevant for them. It helps also to prevent the green and the social washing. It is particularly important that trade unions are involved in the materiality assessment so that the impact on the people and the planet are properly assessed and reported on. This is, however, requires training for workers and recognitions by the government that this is an essential part of the social dialogue and a constructive attitude for employer. And I'm happy to say that the European Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive includes information and consultation rights for trade unions and workers' representatives, and recognize the role of sustainability reporting in social dialogue. At the European level, we strive for a good transposition of the CSRD at the national level, as well as to a commitment to develop the sector-specific reporting requirements. At the international level, we call for the inclusions of trade union and civil society organizations in the governance of standard-setting bodies and reporting frameworks. Furthermore, the double materiality principle is essential for trade unions. Sustainability reporting should not only focus on financial aspects of sustainability issues that are of interest to investors. It should also be aimed at trade unions and other affected stakeholders and include the impact of cooperation on the people and the planet. And clearly here, the point that we want to make is that workers are the constituencies of business, and this is all the more important that business do see this reporting dimension, the social one, including the working conditions and the possibility for workers to defend their interest as an investment. And this is for us a key conditions for setting fair competition basis and measures. And this reporting cannot be a ticking box exercise, nor an exercise that is perceived as nice to have. It's a real must. Thank you so much. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Isabelle. This is a clear request. I would now turn, but last but not least, to Chris again, to ask again about the perspective of the industry on how global and jurisdictional reporting requirements should coexist and interact. You already said that it is important to put an end to the confusion which might exist on the market. And so, what would be concretely your advice to standard setters in the different parts of the world? How do you think that they should go about it, Chris?
Well, thank you. First of all, I'm very impressed with the previous speakers and the work that's being done to standardize and also to provide guidance in terms of standard setting. As we embark on double materiality at Applied Materials, we look at the 12 ESRS and how many of those may apply to us. There are thousands, 1,100 roughly, data points that we're going to have to consider whether we are going to disclose those data going forward or not. So, I think standard setting is absolutely critical because, there's a certain limit to what companies can manage in terms of not just disclosing the data, but doing that in a coherent and a controlled way, right? So obviously, at this stage, our report, all of our disclosures are assured by a third party, and we want to carry that kind of discipline forward. But when we get to potentially 1,000 data points, that becomes much more challenging. So I think the main thing from a corporate point of view is, and we don't want it to be a box ticking exercise, as was just said. We want it to be something that we do genuinely, accurately, and we also want to do it repeatedly, right? So there needs to be repeated discipline around this. So I would ask the standard setters to think about, how many additional data points to add. And there's going to be a point at which I think companies will be very, challenged to comply with every single disclosure that's requested or demanded of them. So, I think, this dialogue between standard setters and companies is absolutely important to make sure that we do this in a coherent way that's sustainable, if you'll pardon the pun, Ugo.
Thank you, Chris. It seems that we are on the right track then. I hope so, and we will continue to be on that track. We've been also very diligent in this panel, so we've saved a few minutes so that I can give you all the floor again for a very, very short final statement. So a final message, a final request or something like that before trying to wrap up within the imposed deadline. So please, Patrick, your last words.
I hope it's the last for the time being, if I may say so. No, for me, the key goal is to make sure that globally we are making progress in sync. For me, this is key. Of course, we know that jurisdictions have different objectives. There are different political backgrounds, and of course, this is playing a role because sustainability is viewed from a number of angles in the world. But what is key is to first of all create interoperability between the various systems, and also to foster global progress on the key issues. And as it has been mentioned, I think that in the future, if we could go further than in terms of pure standard setting, because, for instance, S1 in the ISSB is already considering other risks and opportunities than climate change. So that if we can be comparable on those additional topics as well as quickly as possible, that would be desirable. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patrick. Sue, your last message.
Words of wisdom, no pressure. So I think we've had a lot of good commentary on what I think is very important from our side, which is really working together in an effective and cooperative manner to ensure that companies are focused on providing information which is meaningful and that it's done in a genuine way that really is driving good outcomes as opposed to being seen as a compliance exercise. And I think we've got a lot to do on that front. But if I was talking to the stakeholders, hopefully our preparers and others listening to this webcast, I think what I really would encourage people to do is to really get started and to embrace this opportunity, to use this not as a compliance exercise, but really an opportunity, whatever reporting framework that you're using, to think about sustainability risks and opportunities and impacts in terms of managing your business, and to embrace that and to get started. I think it's hard. It's easy to look from the sidelines and think, oh, this looks hard, but it's good to get started and to really think about this from a strategic and governance perspective in the first instance, and the reporting should follow from that. So I really just encourage people to get engaged, to get started, and to make sure that we end up with information which, irrespective of the stakeholder that you're focusing on, is really information that is going to be a source of communication to move us all forward to address all of the issues that we're facing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sue. And then Carol.
Well, I'd agree with what Patrick and Sue have said, and would add that I would like to see and hope to see more jurisdictions aligning with the two sets of global standards as the EU have done and taken on board, and develop reporting standards which look at the most significant impacts of organizations, as the EU have done, as well as risks and opportunities. Because if organizations are addressing those most significant impacts, as GRI standards facilitate them to do, and managing those impacts, the world is going to be a better place, and everybody's going to be better off. All stakeholders are. So I would like to see more countries, more jurisdictions adopting that dual approach of looking at the most significant impacts through the GRI lens, and the risks and opportunities through the ISSB IFRS lens.
Thank you very much, Carol, for reminding the ultimate objective of all this, which is to make the world a better place to live. Isabel, what would be your last message?
Yeah, I think the whole success of the CSRD and this delegated implementing act is, of course, that we address the impact on people. I think this is the key message. And here I would like to mention again that workers' rights are human rights, and there is no acceptance whatsoever that the reporting on those issues on human rights, and in particular on workers' rights, is perceived as a burden or is perceived as a cost. It should be perceived by all actors as an investment in society. And I think this is our responsibility here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Isabel. And again, last but not least, Chris, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, I want to reinforce Carol's point about, transparency and performance. I see that as my key job here at Applied Materials, is to drive both. So we've spent a lot of time talking about transparency and standards, and ensuring that reports are consistent and useful to external stakeholders. But ultimately, this is all about performance. This is all about getting the planet on a better trajectory. And what better time, what better place to be having this kind of conversation than during COP28.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you, everyone. Let me try to wrap up. Impossible to summarize all the interesting input which has been provided by the panelists during this debate. A lot of concepts have been mentioned. I've been, I've been interested in all of them, but collaboration, cooperation, coordination among standard setters in order to achieve efficiency is certainly one of the messages which emerged very clearly from the debate. Transparency, consistency, and again, for the purposes of efficiency, are also clear messages that we're hearing very loud. I agree with what has been said by one of the panelists. This is no longer nice to have. This is a must. No company should be left behind, in my view, from this process. And I think that we at the European Commission are ready to continue to work in that direction with all the colleagues represented in this panel, and not only. I would like to thank warmly the panelists for the very interesting debate and for the input. Again, I would like also to thank the audience for their patience, for listening to us. And at 11 sharp, without any delay, I would like to declare this panel closed. Thank you very much again.